Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the 9th of June 2020 for Vision Australia's check-in and chat session, learning about yourself, tips from a famous actor and acting coach. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if you're not able to stay for the full webinar today, that's okay because a recording of it will be accessible via our webpage later on at visionaustralia.org/, check in and chat. Today's webinar on learning about yourself, we're going to be talking about some very, very exciting and interesting topics that I actually personally think is applicable to anyone that wants to better themselves. Andie Mcphee will be going through acting tips, and that can be utilized for how you might want to present yourself, giving speeches, attending job interviews, and even going on a date, as well as expanding your creative outlets and allowing the creative process to teach you what you're capable of. So, getting to know yourself better. Now, this is an interactive session, so please send through any questions to Andie via our chat box. Now, if you're using a screen reader, you can access the chat function through keystroke Alt H. I'm really excited now to introduce our guest speaker today, Andie Mcphee, who's an Australian actor with a lot of experience, both locally and internationally. I've picked some of my favourite movies to tell you where he's from. He's been part of Wolf Creek, Animal Kingdom, and Gallipoli, the one in 2015, as well as starred in international releases such as Disney's Saving Mr. Banks, Criminal Minds, and is also best known for his portrayal as Irish biker Keith McGee in Sons of Anarchy. Andie, it is so lovely to have you today. How are you?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
Good,
Thanks
thanks.
for the invite.
It's an absolute
Pleasure.
it's an absolute pleasure to have you, Andie. And just by absolute pure coincidence, to all the listeners out there, Andie actually taught me about six to 8 years ago. I took his course, and if I could sum it up in a couple of sentences to all the listeners, it was probably the most talked about course, Andie, during that time, and you really did help all the students, including myself, become a better performer as well as connect more with ourselves. So I think you're such an expert to be able to talk us through this session. Firstly, tell us what got you into
Thanks.
acting.
I, leaving out a lot of the past history leading up to the acting, I've had a variety of like hundreds of different jobs, and I was a professional wrestler for probably about 10, 11 years, and I started that in Adelaide when I moved from Melbourne. And yeah, they just wanted professional wrestlers, you know, like the TV stuff. They wanted them for a commercial for Hungry Jack's. So I auditioned, got the role, and at the end of that, I went, that was pretty cool fun, easy money. And that's pretty much exactly how it started. I just asked, how can I get an agent? And then got an agent through John Clark, who's an amazing Indigenous actor from Australia. Like John and me are really good friends. And he introduced me to his agent, and we've had a relationship for 30 years now. And you know, she's from Adelaide. So yeah, I had no intention of being an actor. That's how it started. It's pretty funny, actually.
You're pretty lucky because I think most people work so hard to become a performer and might not get much traction with it. And so for you to fall into it is quite an enviable
Mm.
position. But what I love is the fact, you know, you have spent a lot of time not only on screen but also mastering in terms of being a coach and mentor to up and coming as well as well-known performers. And more recently, you've extended into coaching and mentoring students with a disability. Tell us more about that experience.
Yes, I've in LA here. I met an amazing couple, two people who are deaf, and we only communicate. They communicate obviously by sign language, and when I'm with them, it's writing down things on paper. So I'm going to learn sign language. So it's something I'm going to learn from them. But yeah, he's a talent agent here, and I was coaching his young son who is he can hear and speak, but his twin brother can't. He's deaf. So I was coaching the young boy. He's only 5. And I said to the dad, I said, why don't we think about coaching people who are hearing impaired or deaf? And he said, yeah, great idea. But then COVID sort of hit, so we put it on hold. But yeah, 100% we're going to start doing workshops for, just start at the base level, just creative work, and see what people think,
And as that's a really good segue into kind of exploring as a coach and a mentor in acting and even beyond that, tell us about the creative process that you take students on to connect with themselves and others.
Uh, yeah, it's all, it doesn't suit everybody, which is okay, because that's what life's about, But I really concentrate on, when I first start coaching actors, I let them clearly know that I do expect from them to start exploring poetry, art, painting, musical instruments, learning a language. So then they go, oh my gosh, how am I going to do all that? And I said, look, it's not as overwhelming as you think. So everything can be done for free. You can learn a language online like Duolingo. It only goes for a certain amount of time, but it's not about being an expert in it. It's about giving your mind something else to do, creatively learn a language. I've got so many students learning instruments like guitar or mouth organ. They learn it all free online. Doing their own painting and art and drawing, right? Writing their own poems and learning about poems. So they struggle with it for a little bit, but once they get used to it, you actually hear them coming, oh my gosh, this is amazing. My whole creative mind is changing now. Like, I come up with these amazing ideas when I'm auditioning, or I simply just love writing poetry. It's like a meditation. I've had one girl in America here. She's an Aussie. You might know her. She was at one of the acting schools with John Ortchick, Tanaz. I met her in Australia about 11 years ago, and she did my classes here for a couple of months, and then she quit acting, and she took up writing. And long story short, she's got 4 books published on Amazon now. And she said a lot of the reason was I actually started to realize I could write poetry, and I never
Oh,
thought.
wow.
So she started her own blogs, and yeah, it's just completely left the acting world, and now she's an author full time. So you never know what's going. I'm not saying that's happened to everyone, but you never know what you'll create when you start being creative.
I think that's something that I think a lot of people, when you take them through that process and you're saying if they've come for an acting course or they've come to improve their confidence, I think it's quite unexpected when you might say, well, I know for me personally, when it's like, all right, Renee, we're going to now write some poetry. And the immediate connection is, well, what's this got to do with being on
Mm,
screen? So
yeah.
what I'm hearing is that it's the capacity to extend yourself in areas that you never thought was possible. And that byproduct can either make you a better performer or it might give you insight into some of your strengths. Is that what you're finding by the sounds of it?
Yeah. Yep. And even if it doesn't, look, the thing is, it will enhance everything in your life, because once you build that creative side of your brain, like you're exploring poetry, whether you're reading it, writing your own, exploring art, going to art museums or doing your own art, buying a little easel and some paints, and just you don't have to show anybody, just doing it. The more you do it, learning an instrument, learning a language, you're creating new pathways in that creative side of your brain. And even if you just do it for something to relax you in such a busy world that we're in now and changing, it's just mentally, it's proven it's mentally healthy. Like
Yeah.
I went to an event a few years ago in Melbourne, and it was to do with the healing of art. And it was all the victims of the bushfires, the very severe ones that wiped out a lot of towns there. And I was sitting in amongst all these people with like horrific injuries from these fires. And it's like the art, just simple art, helped most of these people heal mentally, right? It was just incredible to watch. So you look at a lot of the A-list actors, so many of them, they write you know, one of a couple I know compose their own music and symphonies. They write their own books. They create their own music. Viggo Mortensen, when we worked with him, with my son Cody Smith McPhee on the road in America 12, 13 years ago, that guy can speak 7 languages. He plays the piano. He plays the guitar. He's like, and you look and go, oh man, like that'd be so cool. So whether people know you do it or not, it's not the point. The point is it will change something in you. There's just no doubt, you know.
Yeah, and I think is that knowledge opening up that side of your brain, was that something
Mm.
that you learned through lived experience, or were you taught that yourself?
Yeah, it see, it's funny because the dots are joining and we don't have enough time on the webinar to tell how my dots joined over 68 years. But I went to one acting school in Melbourne. I used to move on from acting school to discover what worked for me. And that's the joy of being an artist. You can move on and find what works for you. So I found one, Bruce Alexander's school, and he was really, he didn't do the traditional type of coaching. What he did when we did scenes, he'd use music. Like he'd hit a note on the piano and we'd do a frozen movement and we'd sing our lines. And so this went on for months and months. And I started to really love it. And then I started doing all my auditions like that. I prepare at home. I would put music on, classical music, and I'd sing my lines. I'd throw my script on the ground and pick pages up separately, and I'd sing them and change the music. And it was, for me, it was just amazing. Like, and Richard Jasic, who was the producer of Neighbours for a long time, and he hired me in many jobs over the first 10 years of my career. And when he booked me for a really big role in Pirate Islands, which was a 6 months role, he actually came up to me and said, what have you done? He said, I've cast you in so many little sort of supporting roles, but now I've given you a lead role. What I want to know what you did, because something changed. And I told him that story and he went, oh, I get it. And the reason he got it, because he's a classical pianist. And he didn't, I get it. And that was it. That was the conversation. So for me, it worked. I don't know if it would work for everybody, but music is a big thing I know many actors use. Mickey Rourke, I was on set with him and he had a moment come out where he had to be really emotional. So they cleared everyone off the set. He got on his hands and knees, put his earbuds in, listened to the music, started crying, said, right, everyone ready, come in. And every set I go to, every actor that I've worked with, the ones that are really, into their art and craft, I hear them listening to music and they say, I put myself in the mood with music. Music is powerful, so powerful.
Yeah, it is so very powerful. I remember like not too long ago also relying on music to get me into that moment for a stage production. And
Yeah,
it can do something quite instantly when needed. Now, I know that
yeah.
there's going to be a lot of listeners here that are either looking to get into performing arts, or they
Mm,
might just be like, Andy, I just want to get some more confidence because I've got some potential job interviews coming up. Tell us
mm,
more about what your course involves. We've looked into the exploration process through the creative
mm.
journey. Tell us about some of the other ways that you work with a potential student.
Well, the first thing, I'm really honest with them, that this is not an easy career that you're going to choose. It's going to change everything. You can't go to work 9 to 5 unless you own your own business, because you've got to be free to, go and do auditions or go to classes. So the first thing I did is I started my own businesses like lawn mowing rounds and pool lifeguard and every part-time job I could find so I could be free. And that's the first thing I tell them. And the second thing is, I said, you'll hear that old saying about 99% of actors are out of work. I said, well, 99% of actors are. I'm out of work at the moment. Like, I'm not working, but I do other things. And that's the thing I installed. And I said, don't let that saying fall into you, because 99% of actors do have to work. There's only very few that work full time. And I said, that's okay. I said, so when you accept those things and you start to make changes in your lifestyle, and balance all those areas of your lifestyle, and I mean relationships, finances, home, everything, then it's such a different journey.
Mm.
And that's the first thing I get into. And then we just start at the basics, script breakdowns, audition techniques, what's expected of you. And I don't say that I'm an expert in any of that. That's just my experience, because every acting school you go to, you'll get good quality coaching and teaching, and you'll only use what you're going to use, because in the end it's you who's by yourself in the audition room.
That's it. You can do as much preparation as you want, whether you're going for that screen test or whether you're going for a
Mm.
second round job interview. It comes down to what you put out in the end. I remember when I was speaking with you earlier around the value of the work that you do is around giving everyone a platform, regardless of whether you have a disability or what race you are, is that sense that everyone should feel a sense of worthiness. And I think that's a really important part that comes out of working with you around
Mm.
that natural byproduct of exploration of creative journey. What are some of the examples that you've experienced where you've seen someone that might lack confidence now feeling a lot more worthy about themselves?
Yep, it comes down to a lot of it, my experience from your past, right? If you whatever's occurred in your past has occurred. There's really not much we can do about it. So I'm not making light of whatever's happened to people, but when you deal with that, it leaves you open to start seeing the areas of your life you can create and go, wow, I can do this. And whether it's acting, writing, directing, producing, if you keep at it and you train in as many different areas as you can, because you don't know what that hidden gold nugget is inside. Like there's a young guy, the example I'll give is Doug Kenny. He's on Facebook. He's has autism. We're working on his 5th book now. It's a science fiction book. Prior to that, he's written a few of his own books. But when we started coaching, I said to him, you need to start getting yourself built up on social media. Now, I am not an expert on social media, but I get him and other actors and clients to do the work. You need to get in and start researching. And to this day, like last night, he posted something. Oh, that's right. He's built his own website. He interviews international race car drivers from America. Like his drive is incredible. He is not afraid to talk to anybody. He will call people up, like the world's top racing car driver, NASCAR driver, and say, hey, do you mind if I interview you? And he's interviewing people all over the world. He's had little book sales in LA. He sold 5 books. Well, some people might go, he sold 5. I go, yeah, 5 is like 5 million to him. This kid was bullied at school. He's written books on what it was like, excited to go to school, and suddenly it all turned in on him. Like people started bullying him, but he never gave up. And now I'm amazed by him. Like seriously, I'm amazed by what he's doing. He's got 2,000 followers on his YouTube channel. He does, little interviews. He interviews anybody and everybody, and his life has changed. Brendan Monk, who's in Melbourne, he also has autism, and he's in one of my coaching classes, and he too just doesn't give up. And then I connected these two together because Brendan's very shy and Doug is out there. Like if I say to Doug, I'll call you in a minute, 59 seconds, he's going, you ready? I went, no, not yet. It's just a saying, right? So I've connected those two up, and now they're helping each other. So you have no idea okay, me, if someone said to me 10 years ago, oh, you'll be working with people who are hearing impaired, or maybe people who are blind or vision impaired, you may be coaching internationally, you may be coaching, which I am at the moment, setting up coaching students in China, which is a huge challenge because of the language barrier, and all the other things, an ambassador to a mental health non-profit in Perth, which has been started by Troy Coward, who again is an amazing guy, an actor, and someone who's going through a heck of a lot at the moment. He was interviewed on Current Affair a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going, I would have just said, no, that's not me, mate. But it happened because of the work I'm doing, the creativity, and it just opens things up. Whether you believe in law of attraction or whatever you believe in, you'll start creating things around you. And I see it happen all the time. Like it's incredible when you start to step out of your comfort zone and give something a go, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's that mindset around actually just having the courage to take that step and
Yeah.
to be okay with failing. We've got some questions that have come through, Andy, that I'd like to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
We've got I don't have a name, Galaxy S9. Hello.
Huh.
You seem like a very confident person in life, real life. Do you have any tips for someone to build confidence up to? I think and I know we've talked a lot about, I'll add to that
Mm,
question by saying we've talked a lot about the way you've seen someone change their life. But
mm.
if we do have some people that are still at the infancy stages of lacking confidence, what are some baby steps that you would recommend? Like, I don't know, I'm making this up, like
Yeah,
going
yeah,
for a
yeah.
walk, talking to people at a restaurant,
Hmm.
or do you know what I mean? Like, what are some
Yep.
baby steps?
Well, the first thing I just mentioned Brendan Monk, and Brenda doesn't mind me mentioning it because, we have a great relationship, and Brendan is shy. He has autism, but we're proud to talk about it. I said, don't you ever hide that you're autistic or have autism. I said, don't ever hide that. I said, because there's nothing wrong with you. That's just what's occurred, right? And he plays a guitar. He teaches other kids with autism a guitar, but shy, my gosh, he's so shy. So I would give him tasks between our coaching to go out when he goes shopping to restaurants, cafes, supermarkets, to actually connect up with people, like to
Yeah.
talk to them, like, you know, um, thank them for their service, say, oh, thanks, have a great, just little, I said, don't stay there and start having a big conversation because that'll get weird. And he laughed. He said, I said, don't hold the line up in the checkout. But
Yeah.
he started doing that, and he has moments where like you'll get blocks and stumbles, but a lot of people stress over like blocks, but if you're not having obstacles and things to get over, then what on earth would life be like? What, it'd be so smooth, it'd just be boring, like you just go through, everything's working fine. I mean, obstacles are a way of showing us that maybe there's something that we're not dealing with. And hurdles, like if you can get over those little hurdles and you can understand why that particular thing is blocking you, and I can't say that because I'm no expert in everyone's life, but you'll know because it could be something you're afraid of, something told you many years ago that you're not good enough, or you can't do this, or you watch too much on social media and see other people doing it, and then you make yourself small. You'll get rid of all that. Like, just take a breath, and a good way to build confidence is start writing poetry. There's a site called poetry.com. They're about to put up their new website. It's $5 a month or something if you want to pay, but you don't have to. You can start putting your poetry up there. You can start doing artwork. You can start posting a little bit of your artwork on social media. You can put a poem on social media. You learn an instrument. Like, if you've never learned an instrument and in 6 months you can play one song, that's confidence. Hey, everybody, look, I just learned the guitar. Or in 12 months you can speak French moderately. That's confidence, because all of a sudden you start going, hey, the only person stopping me is me. There's two people that stop you, you and you.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's it. And I think that's a really valuable connection around um, that creative process. Sometimes I think subconsciously we're not aware that we can be our own worst enemy.
Mm,
And through that
yeah.
creative process, it does uncover a lot of those blocks that we might be having.
Oh,
We've got some
totally.
We've got some more
Excuse me.
questions coming through. What are your top tips on selling yourself? Example for auditions or job interviews. And you might, Andy, want to use an example, or you might have some practical steps to answer that question yourself. Top
Yeah.
tips in selling
Um,
yourself for job interviews and auditions.
well, look, excuse me. Auditions and job interviews are probably very similar.
Yep.
Auditions, you're putting yourself on the plate in front of people who you think are judging you, but honestly their view is like, we brought you in for a reason because there's something we like about what we've seen about you. So the first thing is let go of what you think you know what that other person is thinking, because you don't, right?
Holla,
And
holla. Love that tip.
yeah,
Love that tip. That's a life tip, Andy.
yeah,
Yo,
it is,
it
because you
is.
don't know,
It's
you
such a
absolutely
waste
have
of
no idea.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
to
it's a
think about
waste
what's
of
going on.
that little voice in your head will have
Yeah.
all those little views going on about what everyone else is thinking, and you just don't know. So first thing I say is let that go. Say auditions first we'll go to, right? The first thing is be prepared. Now, I had an actor who may be watching on here, so I won't mention his name, but he put something on our acting group the other day. Oh, I just put in my audition at the last minute, and it was all stressful. And then I saw the guy who got, I think it was a competition. So he got it. He goes, oh man, his audition was so much better. And wow. And I just wrote back and said, yeah, you're just lazy. Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm very straightforward. I said, you're just lazy, man. I said, you're just lazy, lazy, lazy. I said, why did you even post that? I said, I wouldn't have even posted that. How embarrassing. You just told everyone you're lazy. So I was digging him, right? And he goes, oh, I know. I said, okay, let's stop there. If you had have prepared and done the work when you were supposed to do it, then you would have posted, hey guys, I just did this amazing audition and I did this and did that. It's preparation. Any audition, you've got to prepare for it. You have to take the time. You have to stop doing things that you might want to do. Go not see the girlfriend, boyfriend, not have a coffee with someone, not watch your favorite TV program. You got to let all that go, clean the things up that you need to clean up. Now, I'll give you a quick example. I watched a movie the other night called, oh man, I think it was Men of Valor, an American film. It was just the best film. It was so good about these Navy SEALs. And one of the things he said to his crew before they went on a mission, he said, you make sure that you clean up any mess in your life before we leave. Because if you bring that mess with you, one of us could die. And I went, oh, what a great quote. Like, it was about clean up anything with your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, mum, dad, bills, finances, anything you need to clean up at home, you need to go do that now. And that is any of us anywhere in life. Before you head out that door and go anywhere, make sure that your life, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but make sure you clean up the things you need to clean up. If you need to make a phone call, you need to pay a bill or make a payment arrangement, whatever, make your bed, do the dishes, vacuum, clean. People go, what? I go, yeah, because when you do that, you walk out with this breath of fresh energy going, wow, that's cool, I did it. And it's the audition process gives you that freedom to prepare. Okay, so what's the difference with a job interview? Nothing, zero. You just got to make sure you research that company, research the people, know who they are. Auditions, research the casting director, research the movie you're going for. It's all the same. Know the people you're going in to meet, and don't go in there trying to fluff it and pretend you're something else, because it's not going to work. Just be honest and authentic, who you are, what your passions are, why you think you can offer something to that company, or in the audition, just be authentic and happy with the work that you've done, because it's not going to change on that day. So, and let me say, there's a disclaimer. I am not a coach in how to get people to win job interviews, but what I can tell you is if you have the messes tidied up and it frees your brain up and you do research and you come in authentic and not thinking you know what they're thinking about you, just be in that space and that moment of what's going second by second by second. And listening is a really, really, really powerful thing. You've got to listen to what people are saying. Example, auditions, movie roles. Don't just sit there waiting for your lines to come out. The minute that person speaks, that's the first time you've heard them say it. Oh, and then you react. That's the skill of it. And so whenever you meet strangers, listen to them, listen to what they're saying, and you'll be in their space. And it makes a huge difference.
It's a really valuable tip around what you were saying, whether you're doing an audition or going into a job interview. Like, you can map that experience, like you said, researching, find out their LinkedIn profile, get an idea of their background and the role and the company. Sometimes though, Andy, it's not easy. Like, the
No, it's
idea of
not.
sitting still and listening, what do you do? Do you do meditation, go for walks? Like, how do you get your mind to be still? Because it's
Yeah.
not easy in this Western world
No, it's
sometimes.
not. It really isn't easy, and anyone who's got a great answer would be great. But I mean, look, uh, for me, what I do is
Yeah.
like, I've really learned to hear that voice coming up. Like, here's a quick example, right? That little voice never, ever goes away. It's with you when you sleep. It's with you when you wake up. It's with you in the car. You're driving along and you think, oh my God, I didn't call Pete. Oh, I've got to call Pete. I have to do it later. Okay, no, I've got to get there. Then later in the day, oh, I still didn't call Pete. Now, here's a quick example. It's not coming from me. It came from a book I read. This guy goes, just imagine for 1 minute that little voice in your head becomes a real person, and it's right here beside you. He said, how long would it be before you tried to choke them? Right? Because they're with you all day. This person next
Yeah,
going, hey, hey,
right. I like
hey,
that.
hey, you forgot that. And then you're in
Right.
bed sleeping and it's there going, hey, excuse me, today you forgot. Oh, will you shut up? I'm trying to sleep.
Oh my
That's
God, I
what we
love
do.
that. Oh my
So
God, I love that.
it's just a good little tool. When you hear
Yeah.
it coming up, I'm not saying don't listen to it when it says, hey, don't walk down that street, it's a bit dangerous. Go, shut up, I'm going down there. No, there's two different things. There's safety and awareness. But I know when that voice is coming up, Because the minute I start thinking what I think they know, I shut it up because I don't. And then when I start trying to predict what's going to happen, I stop that because I don't know what's going to happen. So you start to learn to just shut that little voice up, and what's going on right now is right here. Even this moment here, I'm talking to you. I'm not thinking about what I got to do after. Did I make my bed? I'm going to go for a walk. Am I going to meditate? Just no. Here's where I am talking to you, and you're talking to me, and there's people listening. That's it. That's exactly what's going on.
And I think like what I'm hearing is that you have a really strong awareness to disrupt that thinking. The moment you're finding that voice, that there's a strong awareness and you're disrupting it by going, right, I'm back to the present.
Interrupting is a good word too. Interrupting and disrupting. Like both those words are powerful. Just interrupt it. Just stop.
Yeah.
You know?
Now we've got some more questions that have come through. Zyla, I hope I pronounced that right. How can we contact you, Andie? Now, if I plug in the right email address in Andie, I will get you to extend it. If you do want to get in contact with Andie around further information as well as courses, the email address is andieactingcoaching@gmail.com. Is that right?
Yes, it is. And I'll just say something here too, right? And this is just the way I post things on all the acting sites on Facebook. The thing that's changed me is I don't get on there, and I'm not even here to sell my acting coaching. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not here to sell that. I'm here to share my journey. If people come to me and coach, yay, that's great, bonus. But what I've learned to do, which helps this ego run away, is when I get onto all these Facebook groups and start sharing coaching tips, the first thing I do is, like, we acknowledge the Indigenous leaders of, and the past ancestors of our country before we have an event. When I get on and speak to any sort of Facebook groups, I go, look, thanks to all the other acting coaches and teachers here for their valuable information. And when you do things like that, it frees you up from being all about you. You know, when you keep being about you, you're not going to hear what other people say, and your ego will just cloud you. So it's really being so present to the people in front of you, even if they're a stranger. Like, it doesn't matter. I make people laugh here, like homeless guys in the street. Some won't, they're in their own world, but I'll talk to them, and I don't sort of come down and go, oh mate, sorry, because you don't patronize them. They are where they are. And just talk to them like a human being. And my gosh, the difference in the conversation is just so incredible,
Yeah, I think when we all treat people like equally, it does change the conversation. But we've got a question from Benjamin. Hi, Andie. Thanks for your time. I wanted to ask, who were your mentors and how did you find that person?
Okay, so that's a good question. See, I've had a lot of mentors through my life. My judo coach, I started judo in my early 20s. I'm 68 now. I was with him for 15 years. He was a great mentor. My dad, who I fought with for many years, and I have his photo here right beside me. Every time I sit down and do my work, his photo's right there watching me in his bowling outfit. And I used to fight with him, but then when you let go of what I said before about the past, and you see the value of people around you. So he was a great mentor. And people who, this might sound, I don't know if it sounds correct, but since my journey into speaking along people who deal with mental health and suicide and what people have been through, that mentorship on alone helps me really how lucky I am to be where I am, because some people aren't so lucky, in certain areas of their life. So it's helped me be a lot more humble. And that's probably one of the biggest mentorships I've had, is from other people, like, who've struggled in life, and it just suddenly brings you down a peg or two to go, wow, this just isn't all about you and what you've been doing in acting. And I love what I do. I love coaching and acting and these other things I'm doing, but I just learn off people. That's the biggest thing. When I went to Africa a few years ago with Cody, And some of you guys might know Cody. Cody's my son. I traveled the world with him. He's the Nightcrawler in the X-Men movies. He was in Romulus, my father's, the young boy. He won an AFI when he was 11 years old. So we spent a long time. He's a great mentor to me, like learning from him, you know. And going to Africa was an amazing journey there of just meeting the African people and their view of the world, the land, and their land of just was dirt and sand. So, you know, it was amazing just to learn from other people. That's my biggest mentorship.
And I think also like being open to that as well. Like I think people need to
Yeah.
be like you've described, being open to learning from the people that you might meet that are in quite destitute positions, like you were mentioning, right up to people that are, you know, in director performing roles,
Yeah,
type
yeah,
of thing. Really,
yeah, absolutely. And
yeah,
humble people, even multimillionaires I've met are so humble, just humble people. And he says, it's not about the money I've earned. He said, that was hard work, but people who really care about other people, that's just huge.
that's it. I'm going to completely change topics now, even though I have a feeling that it is still the same consistent
Hmm.
message. But if there are people here that are listening, and we did say that if there's any specific tips around even going on a date, that confidence that you might need
Hmm.
to have to be able to carry yourself and still be authentic in that first interaction. What's your advice? Because I think
Huh.
that that's the beauty of your course, that it's all like byproducts of poetry and writing and music, is that you get that confidence. But yeah, I thought I'd
Yeah.
ask that.
Well, you dance, you know, like,
Oh, a bit of dancing. I like that.
yeah, dance in life. Like I was on a coaching call the other day with one of my coaches, and they were just saying, you know, you got to learn to dance. You got to learn to dance with the situation you're in, because when you dance, you step onto a dance floor and it's not about anything else but you and that person there. And whatever happens, you're dancing in that moment. And this famous acting teacher said, you know, like when you learn to dance, you'll learn to dance in life. And it's such a great quote, like to just be able to dance with like everybody on here now. No, I can't see them. We're all dancing together, and we're supporting each other. I'm not trying to out dance you, you know, and it's a valuable thing. So you talk about relationships, right? That's probably another webinar, but anyway, whether I'm an expert or not, I'm not sure, because I've part of my journey and part of the reason I do a lot of personal life coaching is because I've broken up a lot of relationships. So maybe I'm not the best guy to
Heartbreaker,
ask.
Andy.
Yeah, oh, no, probably, yeah, heartbreaking, but probably not in a good way. But anyway, like what you're saying is what I learned out of relationships, the biggest thing, and it's the same thing I just said before. When you're with someone and you meet someone brand new, let go of who you are and listen to what their little story is, because when you listen to them, they'll listen to you. And if you come in authentic, transparent, and vulnerable, and not hiding anything or trying to be something you're not, whether you end up dating that person forever or not, you're going to leave them lightweight, because they met someone who's honest and authentic, and they listen to them rather than coming, well, hey, this is about me, 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 you know, like listening in any relationship. From elderly people I've heard talk about it, or how they lasted 60 years in a marriage, they said, we listen, we communicate, and we don't make each other wrong. We agreeably disagree, or whatever it is. And that's not easy to do. It's not,
No,
because we're conditioned in another way. It's all about, we think we know what's right, you
that's so true. I'll remember those tips as well with my boyfriend.
know.
I've got another question that's come through from Courtney. What are the key steps to getting your work into the public eye, for example, on television and in film?
Do you mean, so what I'm hearing with that question is, if we're talking about actors that uh, are working and like getting their demo reels or show reels out, I'll have to answer both, because if you're starting out in the business and you need to get known, then pretty much the same story from everybody is that you will have to go and do a lot of short films, like through universities, VCA, RMIT, all that. There's tons, AT2, like just keep searching for short films, because they're the best place, as long as you're training in an acting school, but they're the best places to get experience, because they're learning If you do third-year graduate films, those people are ready to move out in the real world. You get a ton of experience, but you get footage. And when you get footage, then you set yourself up with a little show reel, maybe 2 or 3 minutes long. So then you've got something to show people. The thing is, if you don't have anything to show, then that's like a job interview. If you have an empty resume, they're not going to bring you in.
Yep.
So you need to have something to show. In early stages, you build up that resume, and then hopefully, and you keep training, that you start to get noticed by casting directors, by doing casting director workshops, and training. Like you can't ignore the training. You must train, and you must be searching people out in that world to be doing short films to gain experience. And if you keep doing it, it will work. You just cannot give up. And have a website. If you've been a working actor for quite some time, my website is andiemcphee.com, and you'll see that's got all my work on there, and it's just a place where someone can go and have a look and go, okay, yeah, they've got a good body of work. So whatever level you're at, you definitely have a website, have a good social media profile, and make sure you're putting up valuable stuff. Don't put things up that are going to be detrimental to you, you know.
That's right. And I think these are really good tips for anyone that's whether you're looking to start off building a career in the performing arts, or as well as getting getting experience for a particular job, you know, whether you're going to start off by even volunteering, even have a Star Now account, which is a free
Yeah,
website,
for
just
sure.
to
Yeah,
find these jobs.
just get in there. Yeah.
Just get in there and have a go. And if I can add to that, everyone has social media platforms now. We can use those tools to write, to share our writing, to share small videos as well.
Yeah.
We're coming to, wow, time has gone really, really fast today. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to give you the floor again and say if there's anything else that you wanted to add before we.
Yeah, I will. I'll just add one thing, which came to my mind. I was talking. Forgive me, I cannot remember the actor's name, but he was from, I think they were from Iran or Iraq. I'm not quite sure, but a close friend of mine met them through her manager, and they were both actors in their own country. The wife, she was an author and screenwriter. They came to America, and his career came to they left because there was so much turmoil in their country, and his career came to a complete and utter stop. So they just said, we have to see footage from you. And they said, we don't need to see footage from your home country because it's not relevant to here at the moment. We want to see you do some, you know, like local American work to see what your accent, your performance is like. So this is what he did. He went and did a ton of short films over, I think it was 6 to 8 months or 10 months, just kept going in for non-paid work. He just built a whole resume of these little short films and clips and put together. And then he started getting noticed because he was a professional actor, but he just needed to do things in America, right? And a lot of it was non-paid and some was very small pay. And then he ended up booking a role with Nicole Kidman in
Wow.
her movie. It was one of the movies where it was to do, I think it was in a Middle Eastern, one of the Middle Eastern countries. That was the theme of it. And I can't remember what the name of the movie was. I apologize. It was quite some time back. But he got to meet the director, the producers, and they loved him. And he got a massive coverage on a magazine here, LA Times, like he's on the front cover. So I will do some research and find it for you and send it to you so you might be able to put it out to anyone who wants to know. But that's what you do. You just get off your butt and you go make it work. You don't sit there going, oh, I haven't got any footage. Well, okay, great. Pat on the back. Now go find out where you can do some short films and keep doing that. And there's a time where you stop that and then you start moving to the next level to find agents and managers, you know, and it will work. You just got to
That's
keep at it.
right. And it is a huge journey. And to anyone that's listening, whether you're looking for just to get to know yourself better, whether that's the relationship with yourself, to get greater confidence, to step into that, to an interview for a job, or whether this resonates with you as a performer and you want to take those steps and Andie resonates with you, please send him an email at andieactingcoaching@gmail.com. I understand Andie's does workshops via Messenger, Skype, Zoom, and whatever works for you, and can talk to you more about what that format looks like because you're based in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Thank you so much for your time today, Andie. And I just wanted to mention
Thanks.
to all the listeners out there that Vision Australia, during this time and in the future, um, we're offering services via telehealth, and which is conducted through phone, video conferencing, email, or a combination, depending on what your requirements are. You can contact our AT help desk if you'd like support in getting set up for telehealth. Please call Vision Australia on 1300 84 74 66 or email info@visionaustralia.org for more information. The next check-in and chat session is about giving yourself mental first aid. And that's on Thursday, the 11th of June at 2 p.m. for those residing in New South Wales, Vic, Queensland, Tas, 1:30 p.m. for South Australians and Tasmanians, and 12 p.m. for those um, in Western Australia. Please join Emily Purcell for that session. Andie, thank you so much
Yes,
for
thanks. It
coming on
was great.
board. We've absolutely loved chatting with you today. Have a great
Yes,
day.
thanks. Thank you, and take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.